The loving work of God, the manifestation of his charity and his mercy, is only carried out by men who do not kneel for Satan, men who do not bow to the temptations of the world, men who do not adhere to the whispers of the fallen ones and their desperate attempts to absorb your energy, to take your energy through the surrendering of it with your free will into the energy extraction matrix of Satan, fueled by the outward focus of man and the pursuit of fulfilling our lack of inner peace with worldly pleasure. God's work is done by men who refuse to yield even an inch to the devil. This is a reality, and this is what I wish to share with you all in this video. Before I do, however, I should really wish you all a blessed and a happy New Year. I hoped to post before now, but unfortunately I'm not well, and nor is my family. We have some virus, nothing serious. However, I caveat and let you know that in case my communication is not clear, I have a little brain fog, so if things seem a little off, you understand why that is. I also would like to thank you all. I don't feel it's right to mention a Happy New Year without thanking you for last year. Last year we had a phenomenal and miraculous year. This community made our family possible. You represented unconditioned love. And unconditioned love has a shape and form in our family of nearly 200 children, the majority of which special needs. This family in and of itself is a miracle in the eyes of this human sitting here talking, but I hope the world sees that miracle. For it was born through the will of God, coming to us through meditation and prayer and fasting and humbling ourselves before Creator and asking if there's any plan that needs to be actuated in this world that there are no hands and feet behind. The image I hold is that around the world thousands of people, thousands of times, have seen these children you may never meet, children you have no relationship with, and from the purest form of love, that love that is born here and now, only, without condition, a love without any condition. You do not love those children as you have a relationship with them or you have memories. You love them because you know they need love, and you have the capacity to bring that love forward into this 3D world of ours. And that's a pure love. It's a love without attachment. It's a love that says, I love you and I need and I want nothing from you. And as that love opens up in human hearts and they click share, it has travelled to, for most of you, a far off land, East Africa. And it has created the foundation and the mortar as well to hold this family together. Last year was phenomenal. Our children ended the year with an amazing Christmas, and it was thanks to you guys. Some of those children had been homeless a matter of weeks beforehand. Many were on the brink of death last year. Some were tied up in the dark, living incomprehensible horrors. And they all had a family gathering, gifts, and healing and light like they've never known, many of them. Last year, we only had to hold one fundraising event, not even an event, a fundraising appeal, to get vehicles for our children, and we bought 2 minivans. This is the goodness, that our prayers were being answered without having to ask. We were not having to say to you all, please help us with this problem. We were praying, and because this community knows we are there, the presence of the Christic realm was able to open up in the lives of hundreds, thousands of people to share and make all of this possible. So thank you. Thank you for another miraculous year, and I believe this year will be just as beautiful, just as blessed, and just as filled with our wonderful God who has brought us to here. We, as the children of God, to now get into the video that I wish to speak about. We as the children of God carry a responsibility. That responsibility is individual at first, and then it moves on to society and those around you. Our initial individual responsibility is to return home to the Eden operating system. That operating system that humanity has access to, in which we flow through life synchronistically, as it were, with the presence of the divine will of the Christic realm at our back, guiding our life. Now, for us to turn up in the Eden operating system, a system that ultimately sees we as human beings surrendering our control into the hands of our Creator and that divine will, and allowing through a walk of what we have labelled faith, the life of the human organisms that we formally identified as a nationality, as a personal history, who must analyse and control everything. We surrender all of that and move into the freedom of faith, the purity of faith. And therefore our responsibility is to turn up for the divine will. But to turn up for the divine will, the problem we face is many will try to bring their personal history and their nationality and the toolboxes of that personal history, who constantly has to analyse life, for it can't possibly have faith that perhaps tomorrow a wonderful, loving God will be at your back and ready to support you. As Jesus said, look to the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, yet your heavenly Father provides for them. Are you not more important than they? What is Yeshua saying there? He is saying, turn up for the divine will. Turn up for the will of God for your life, the presence of God for your life, the love of God and the power of God and the plan all of that holds for the human shape and form you wrongly identified as a personal history. Give that human shape and form over. Surrender it. And the personal history isn't the one to give it. The personal history is put to sleep by the soul awareness, and in doing so the soul awareness returns the human organism and the soul and the awareness that you are back to the Eden operating system, that where the divine will takes a hold. How do you take responsibility for finding that? How do we move to that Eden guidance system, that Eden operating system? Where is it that we come in? What's the methodology? This is what often majority of people always ask. Where's the methodology? You have two operating systems. One is Eden, and it is unified with your Creator, with the Christ. The other is the knowledge of good and evil operating system, and it is not unified. If you look at the story of Adam and Eve, this metaphorical story which doesn't give us much but gives us enough, you see that Adam and Eve, some event took place and they fell from the Eden operating system where they were nourished, cared for, and could hear their loving Father. They moved through something, some form. It's symbolic that there was a bite of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The human awareness, the human organism itself in that instant was transformed into a being that operates from the knowledge of good and evil operating system. Now, This transformation has been pointed at. Yeshua called it the flesh. Buddha said you must enlighten, away from it. You must see through Maya, the fallen world, and the illusion of the separate personal self. Yeshua said you must give up the flesh, you must give up your life and hand it over to God. Apostle Paul said you must take up your cross, and therefore it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, for I was crucified with him. The knowledge of good and evil operating system is the flesh. It is the Maya, it is the illusion, it is that which we must transcend to return to the point of power where we never bow or kneel to the devil again. And I don't mean bow in prayer, I mean bow in your undisciplined life, in your weakness, bow in your endless pursuit for pleasure to satiate the lack of inner peace as you build more and more your comfortable prison cell of worldly desire. And it is nothing but a comfortable prison cell. It's a sorry excuse for freedom. There is no freedom in persistently needing to search externally for meaning, for joy, for pleasure, for stimulus, for distraction, for entertainment. You should be able to enter a room and be stable, having overcome the world. Come into the room with joy, joy for the mere glimpse of the light outside, or the beauty of the light, the beauty of the plants, the fulfillment of the nowness and the gratitude of that. It should be present with us. And if it is not, we are becoming ensnared by that enslavement of the knowledge of good and evil operating system that we fell into. I have called that the alien slave technology at times, of the notion that perhaps we were genetically hacked to create a slave species. For what could be easier to enslave than a species that no longer hears God? A species with spiritual power, spiritual gifts that are exactly as the Christs are. And you find that species in this vast cosmos, and you want the purity of that energy. And you come to that species and you work out a way through persistent deep analysis of Creator and its will over millennia, how to hack, how to mimic Creator in reality and in the species creation as well. And you hack the species, the fall of man. And you take it away from living its life knowing that there is a loving Creator that speaks through their intuition and guides them and wants them to have a beautiful and loving life. And you place them into this world which is completely different, where things must tear each other apart to survive, where they themselves must not hear the voice of God but use their own intelligence and constantly analyze their environment endlessly to try and satiate the image, the thought of fear, the thought of problems in the future. Look to the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap. If we keep using our intelligence to try and stave off fears that are born only in our thought, if we refuse to share our resources because maybe in 20 years someone will get sick, or maybe in 20 years I will need this money for a rainy day. If we continue in that knowledge of good and evil operating system, we continue to drag ourselves into that modality of living. And therefore we end up hoarding resources as we cannot anticipate the future. And as we are not walking in faith, we aren't necessarily 100% certain God has our back. And if we aren't certain God has our back, who is going to have our back? Our ego. Our own personal meanness that is sitting in the throne where the walk of faith takes place and God should be sat. The ego, the analyzer. Now here's the problem. To separate you from God, you must separate from everything. And as soon as you begin the game of analysis, you take yourself out of unity and you partition yourself. Topic of analysis, analyzer. Take away analysis, what do you have? You have a new spiritual way, an awakened state where you interact with reality and you learn about it through revelation, through communication with the forest, through communication with the waters, through communication with the cosmos, a direct line to the creator of all things. But if you start analyzing, that direct line is cut. As you are saying, I am not a part of all things, I am an analyzer of all things that are outside. And therefore you create the illusion that your skin contains an analyzer which is separating you from the world around you. The reality is your skin is connecting a loving awareness to the world around you. And the fallen operating system is that which leads us into that separated, partitioned space. And this is lethal to our species. For when we get into that partitioned space, when we move into that state of separation, we feel a void. And that void is so uncomfortable, for the inner peace that pours through when we are unified with all things is absent. And therefore the discomfort of it leads us to try and medicate it. Most people in this world are drowning in the survival systems that we have had thrown upon us. If you are living a regular, everyday life, and you're going to work, and you're serving society, and you're providing for your children, you can still do that in the presence of the living God. Or you can do that in a completely different state. You can also do that in the state of feeling that something's missing. And that small feeling that something is missing will bring you home from work and have you, whether you're a father or a mother or whatever it may be, it will have you pursue medicating to find pleasure, to find meaning out there. For the last thing you want to do after a long day for many is, it's seemingly, to turn inward and to lift off the baggage of the day and harmonically attune with the heart of the universe that pours forth all love, energy, vitality and peace. The knowledge of good and evil operating system has you in this state of constant analysis, thinking, doing. And in that state, that void that you feel, because there's no inner peace, leads you to look outside. And the moment we begin to look outside for meaning, for distraction, for entertainment, the demons begin to cackle. The higher dimensional beings from another dimension who are using the fall of your pure light into the perversion of sin as a drug to get a hit, ultimately. They begin to rub their hands together. Wonderful. Here's another one. Another child of God manifest in a beautiful space here with a wonderful family. And here they are. They are about to bow to Satan. They're about to bow to Satan because they are going to go to the supermarket and overload themselves on junk food. They're going to kneel before Satan as they turn to their pornography. They're going to kneel to Satan as they turn to this mindless stream of entertainment. Dark entertainment a lot of the time. And meanwhile, all of that vitality that was needed so the divine will could be heard and you could follow it is spent, is lost as you continue to bow to Satan. The work of God is only fulfilled in this reality. The loving works of God, the creation of stable environments for those who suffer, the ability to comfort someone who looks like they need it on the street, for the bus driver to go the extra distance when the passenger gets on and say, "Are you okay? You don't look well. You don't look happy." Any movement of compassion is a service to our Creator. And the majority of us are so caught in the external search and the loss of vitality from years and years of these habituated sins of selling our essence into the hands by bowing to Satan, of these perverse things that we get into. We are so drained that the work of God is not getting done, but the work of Satan plentifully is. This new year, know that the doorway into this reality through which Christ enters is the human being that's looking back at you in the mirror. As you look in the mirror, you are the doorway for the work and the love and the power of Christ. You are responsible for ensuring only this, that you turn up for the divine will. So how do you turn up for the divine will? For the knowledge of good and evil operating system has you constantly feeling separated from God, constantly analysing everything, and therefore is constantly structuring an image of a personal me inside of you that must sit in the throne where God should be seated in your life. Meaning you begin to walk by faith and not by sight. That whole structure of a personal me that's always analysing, plotting and planning, thinking, stressing you out, that whole structure has to go to sleep. You can't take that structure, which is one of the traps of the devil. He tricks people into believing you can bring that structure with you into your walk with God. Therefore, you can become a servant of God, but you are still restricted by the toolbox that the nationality gave you. And so you move through life now with faith and comfort that you know God, but nothing supernatural is taking place. Your prayers are not getting answered. You're not manifesting. You're not healing. You're not casting out devils. You don't have the strength to fast, the discipline to fast. The reason is that you have taken that identity, personal history, and you have said, I'm going to take that with me towards God. But God is saying, no, I do not need that. It's corrupted, it's polluted, it's the knowledge of good and evil manifest in human form. I need that to be asleep. And when that is asleep, there will be no void in you. And when there is no void in you, temptation begins to lose its flavour. And when temptation loses its flavour, you will not bow to Satan. And therefore the want for a methodology to enter the space where the living God is made realized in our life, the methodology is wanted by the structure of a me in the knowledge of good and evil operating system. And there is no methodology. For when you engage the personal history and the personal self in a linear methodology to try and return back to the living God, the very engagement of the knowledge of good and evil self to find a methodology, the very engagement of it awakens the knowledge of good and evil operating system. And therefore, you cannot use that system to walk your way back to the Eden operating system. It can't be done. And that's why there is no methodology. You can use tools, self-inquiry, meditation, fasting, ultimately to bring yourself to a place where you are ready to adhere to the divine will. But that place is humility. And humility is tough, for if you say you're humble, you're not. You see, the character who says it's humble is an ego parading at humility. But the character who doesn't know humility is what they are expressing. Those instances where the energy that you embody is humility, but you aren't aware of it. There is no character. And the character, the knowledge of good and evil operating system, being responsible for that character, may come back and try to grab it and say, hey, I'm humble, look at me, I'm better than you. It'll take even that. It'll take anything to make itself something even spiritual, virtuous actions like humility and fasting and prayer. And so when you try to do it through a methodology, you try to do it through something beyond grace. For the reality is, here and now, through grace alone, you can be free and return back to Creator. You can apologize, repent of your arrogance which has said all along, there is a God, but I don't fully trust that God to provide for me and support me and ensure my future is set. So there is a God, but I don't trust you. I trust myself more. This is arrogance manifest. This is how we place in the throne of life where God should be sat. The knowledge of good and evil self, the fallen self. And so there is no methodology. The one who wants a methodology, that one there now, who's confused and muddled up, that one that wants it, it is in the way, and it must die for Christ to be born. This is the reality of man. That's where love without condition is pouring forth from the heart of the cosmos and the heart of man. There where there is no meanness, where there's no personal history entanglement, where you don't love, as we say, I love my children unconditionally. You love them that way because they're your child. The condition is relationship. But when you go beyond that love, these fragmented, sedated loves that we have known all of our life, and you reach that purity of vitality, that energy of just the love without condition. I love you, I need, want, expect nothing from you, even if I know you or not. That love. It's hard to describe. And it's impossible to hold it. For when that is through, you are unified with all things. For you recognize that the foundation of it all is the generous heart of love pouring forth. And therefore the love with which you have been loving is the love that you are. And for that to be known beyond intellectual knowledge, to be known in the beingness of what we are. Once it is realized, it never leaves. It will forever alter the path of a human being. We are here in a fallen world, and our arrogance has left us not trusting God with the faith that our Creator deserves. And therefore, we say to ourselves either a series of things. Either I must hoard my resources to protect my interests and my family in the future. And this, of course, leads to immense inequality. Or we get to the point where, as we are so arrogant that we don't trust God can sort this out, we try to solve the problem of the entire life. So we're too worried about retirement packages, we're too worried about our pensions, etc. Rather than having faith and stepping out and saying, look to the birds of the air. Just not permanently, but sometimes. Look to the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap. You don't have to put your whole, everything into this. Leave space for your Creator. Leave space for God. It is when people leave space for God that they take their savings and their retirement packages and they somehow get compelled by the divine will to throw it at children who today suffer and need some help. And those people exist, and I know them, and as they throw those out, they come back in unexpected ways. For now God has someone who's not attached to the world and is attached to the Spirit. And there the supernatural life starts. You throw it away, it comes back. And this has been my life as well. God cannot fill our purse until it's empty. He can't fill your pocket until it's empty. I have a policy with our charity that we always use everything we have. And I've done it since the word go. For there is always somebody needing help. And by doing it that way, it has only grown. It has only continued that as we give away, God returns it so we can be stewards of it for those in need again. We need to see this. Our arrogance, our pride can be very secretive. It can be a great sneak in our life. For we may think we're not arrogant, and yet the very notion that we must try and solve the whole of the world's problems and the whole of the future of humanity, this is our arrogance. And you see, this returns us to this topic of the knowledge of good and evil operating system versus the Eden. For if you as a human being are going to continue to look at the next 50, 60 years of your life and try to control them, what you are doing is you are taking away attention from this present moment. And when you take attention away from the present moment, you take energy away from it and from your own connection to it. And therefore, if you look at it this way, perhaps somebody wants to write a book, but they say, well, maybe it won't sell so well. Or I have a memory. Memory as well as future plays this role in our life. I have a memory, someone said I won't do well at that. Who am I to write a book? It's a waste of time. Nobody will read it. All of this. Or perhaps it's, I believe I can write a really good book. I just somehow can't sit down and do it. It's overwhelming. It's too much. How can I possibly write a whole book? It's too much. All of this is coming from the knowledge of good and evil operating system, and it's thinning out the power of God that is in you into this broad spectrum of potentialities where you begin to fear because of thought, begin to doubt because of thought. You begin to tell yourself you can't purely because of thought or memory. And so thought and memory becomes the master of the soul. And mind is a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. Now, if you just pull it into what I use, a 10-second rule, that creator needs the next 10 seconds. Reality is creator doesn't need time with you, but it pulls you closer to that eternal now where the living God interacts with humanity only now, nowhere else. Next 10 seconds. Instead of writing a book, sit at your desk. Mountain 1 conquered. Next 10 seconds, open your laptop. Mountain 2. Next 10 seconds, open your word processor. Mountain number 3. Next 10 seconds, start writing. Mountain number 4. Next 10 seconds, write again. Next 10 seconds, before you know it, the 10 seconds will fade and you'll attune back into this moment as you've taken time and you've restricted it. Now the whole window of your attention, your awareness is coming towards the only place where you have any functionality. Now, here, the movement you make now, the breath you take now, the thing that you say now, the movement action of your body now. The next 10 seconds brings you down to a compartmentalized version of your thought. And it tells your thought, I only need to do this. And as you pull yourself to there, you recognize that you actuate faith. Because when you can only focus on the next 10 seconds, your mind may come into that 10 seconds and interfere and say, but what about tomorrow? What about next week? But you keep rigidly telling yourself, I only need the next 10 seconds to do this. I only have to open my laptop. I only have to type some words. As you do that, as you come around, you will see faith actuated as all of your awareness has come into this present moment, into the movement of your speech, your intelligence, your hands, your feet. And the more tuned you get to that present moment, the more clarity of the divine will come. When you fast, you really enter that place deeply. You just enter the present moment so sharply. And there the divine will speaks. And if the divine will tells you, open your laptop and send this email, you know that all you need to focus on is doing that. And God will take care of your future. For you have entered the Eden operating system, which is the same operating system of the Spirit that Yeshua tried to lead you to. Christianity has not done such a good job, but Christianity doesn't own Jesus. Christianity is a religion built around him. I could easily build a religion around Jesus that's not Christianity if I so wished. His teaching, look to the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap. Be here, where they are, and God will meet you. And if you wander to the future with your fears and your anxieties, or wander to your past with your regrets, rigidly with your mind say, no, I'm back to this task. And the more you do that, you will see that you are doing it task by task, but it's the same as that saying, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And as you do it task by task by task, you realize that you don't know what's coming tomorrow, but you are aware the divine will is asking you to move in this way, that way, this way. And as you do, you therefore enter the walk of faith, as you don't understand what all of these little macro movements are leading you towards. You don't know why the divine will that you have taken time to harmonically attune to has asked you, in the instance of this human organism and the records I have of passage of time, to board an aeroplane to Africa. No idea why I was going there. Inclination, but no idea, no plan. This is where God takes our life. In those moments where we become lovingly aware of this moment, lovingly aware that we are opening the laptop to write our book, waiting in that loving awareness state, free of all that turmoil of thought and its addictions and its suffering, etc., and just lovingly aware and enjoying therefore the flow of the eternal now that we are all anchored within. And the knowledge of good and evil operating system wants you to lose your connection to the eternal now. Yet it desperately needs you to function in the eternal now so it can extract your energy from there as you chase pleasure from your memory or anticipation of it in the future, from the void, as you bow to Satan, as you kneel to Satan, as you feed your energy like a drug to an opium addict, and they get their hit, but then they need more. In the same way that humans need more and more of their addiction, these higher dimensional forces are in the same situation. This is why they are desperate to ensure the species continues, and continues with a certain output of consciousness so that we continue to offer them their drug of our sin. And we must learn that they have that power over us because we are too arrogant to let go of control. Let go of the personal history. Let go of all of its merits and achievements, all of its failings and its weaknesses. Let go of all of it. Let it just become dust in the wind for a moment and see what remains. What remains is an unchanging, permanent awareness, a powerful, divine, loving awareness, and it's looking through your eyes. And there, the divine will enters the life of man. And there, the doorway through which Christ enters humanity is open. And if we run away from that, back to our sin, or we run away because we place a new God in our situation. God, you've asked me to help those people, but I have no money, so I can't. In other words, you heard God. You trusted that God wanted you to do this. But now you made money bigger than him. Money bigger than God, so you made money the God of your situation. I'd love to do that, but I'm not healthy enough. You've made ill health the God of your situation. As if it can't be overcome. We must realign and become the doorway for the Christ. We must be the hands, the feet, the gentle eyes, the compassionate touch of Christ. And we can only be there if we stop bowing to Satan with our sin and our pleasures that leave us living for this external, comfortable prison cell. And we can only say no to the temptations of the energy extraction matrix if we are fulfilled and not in a state of a void. To be fulfilled, we must align 100% with the will of our Creator. And that happens here and now. Not in history, not in a book, not in a spiritual practice. All of this paraphernalia must go, and here, in this instant, empty, the soul says, I have surrendered and yielded the personal meanness to the winds of life, and I return the vessel and the soul and its sojourn on this earth back to the wisdom of the divine Creator, who is waiting through the Holy Spirit, the intermediary of that Christic realm of creation and humanity in this fallen world. There, grace. No methodology, no chasing, no earning, all concepts of the fallen self, but simply a removal of the fallen self-operating system, silencing it as genetically part of you, and a return to the ever-flowing love of the Christ, which can change this fallen world of ours from the inside out, but only if enough doors keep opening. And you are a door. Open the door. The world needs it. I love you all. I shall leave it there. God bless, guys. Bye. I was at the hospital last night with one of the children. He went into a series of very violent seizures and just wouldn't stop. So we took him, and I was thinking about you guys. I was thinking, some of these people, they'll just be waking up now and making their breakfast, completely oblivious to the fact that because in their heart they decided to reach out and share with what we're doing for these children here. I was able to have fuel in my car and to be able to drive to the hospital with money for the bills to make sure that Joshua could get the treatment to put a stop to his seizures. Without intervention, he would have seizured possibly until death or until irreparable brain damage last night. And this place only exists because of you guys, and you have no idea what you've just done. At every given moment, I can't share what is happening, but at every given moment, when you share with us, you're the one healing them. That's what I was thinking while I was driving. While you're sleeping in your bed, or going about your daily work, oblivious to the idea that you're saving a child's life here. It's pretty amazing. God bless. Bye.